Okay, well, let's dive into Gemini. Gemini. We have to say many Geminis. When I think of Geminis, I think of lots of energy. So we know that Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And we know that Mercury is the fastest planet that cruises around the sun. We know that the sun is where all the entertainment is. So Mercury, being the messenger, being closest to the sun, is really what Gemini is all about, being closest to the drama, knowing what's going on, the highlights. That's why Geminis make such amazing journalists, writers, communicators, gossip columnists, astrologers, anything that has to do with knowing what's being in the know, knowing what's going on. Now, Gemini is also the twins. Okay, there's a mythological story about the twins. I'm not sure if I'm going to get into it in this video, but the bottom line is that there was one brother that was a mortal brother and one brother that was an immortal brother. One brother that had the father Zeus, and I can't remember the other brother's father, who that was at the moment, but I do have that information. We can get that information. But the point is, you know, there's this spiritual side, this high vibrational side, and the low vibrational side. Okay? Like any other sign that has duality, there's this up and down, one voice versus another voice thing going on all the time. The devil, the angel, okay, on the Gemini shoulder. And, when you talk to a Gemini, it's to me one of my favorite people to talk to, especially if you want to get in the know or you want to gossip. Okay. So, let's face it, we've all had a little gossip run here or there. And I'm not even talking about necessarily like mean gossip. I'm just talking about having that ability to get that energy, that electricity starts going. You start talking over each other. And all of a sudden it's like you're just in it. Even if you tried not to be, you're in it. Now, when we talk about pulling a Gemini in, working with Geminis, you tell them you got a little secret and they're right there for you. Hey, I got something that nobody else knows. Oh, Gemini loves that. So, when we're talking about working with this, we have to understand that, yes, like many people say, there's two different people in there. And which one am I getting? Which brother, which sister, which twin am I getting? I think that if we are truly learning to embrace astrology, that we will help our children, ourselves, and others to embrace all sides of what we are. There's a purpose for the twins. There's a purpose for Mercury. Mercury has to be able to go down into the dark and bring back the messages there as well. When you follow the transits of Mercury, you'll find, and this is very similar to the Gemini, when Mercury goes retrograde, Geminis often go through a real rough time, can go through depression, can be down, can be mean, can be mad at the world, okay? Because they are ruled by Mercury and they are going to feel this the most. They like to be high vibrational. They like to be going here and going there. That butterfly just touching the ground in little places. Now, this can also be in men, the Gemini can also be kind of the Peter Pan syndrome. You can actually look that up. But it's kind of saving everybody, saving all the underdogs. And that often comes from the fact that their 10th house, their outlet, how they put all their energy, where does it come out? It comes out in Pisces. So a Gemini, as intelligent as they are, often are teachers or in the healing practices, bringing all the information together to help others succeed. Because Mercury, it likes to revolve around the sun. It's not necessarily the creator of the drama. It just keeps the drama going so that we can all learn from it. We learn from each other. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from what's going on. We learn that we're real. And the Gemini gets in trouble a lot. Sorry about my lighting, you guys. The Gemini gets in trouble a lot for talking too much or gossiping or saying something. But in all reality, and in all truth, aren't those the things that probably need to be said that nobody else is saying, and they're repressing? We all repress, and we're not the ones who are going to say it. And sometimes it needs to be said. So the next time the Gemini gets in trouble for spreading the news a little bit, it may be a necessary evil for people to grow through things and for things to be brought out into the light. So that's a I don't know. I just felt like that was really strong on my heart to say. Gemini rules the third house, okay? The third house of communication, of travel, local travel, community. So they are more of a community-minded person, kind of small town. Now on the internet, our world is getting so much bigger. But even in a small group, it's the Gemini that's going to be all over the page, all over the group, making little comments, stirring people up, pissing people off. Just for fun, the trickster. Okay, Mercury is the trickster. All right. Now, in the shadowier side of Mercury, we can get more of the con artist. Definitely working the deal. How am I going to get the best out of this situation just for the sake of working the deal? You do see gamblers here, card players here. Car salesmen, okay, is not uncommon. You'd see for Gemini. They are the ones who can sell. They can sell. If you have advertising and you want to have somebody do your advertising, get a Gemini. Let them use their magic. There's a magic in their words. They make you believe you need something when you didn't need it. Next thing you know, you're like, how did that happen? I've seen my son, my Aries son, has Mars in Gemini in his 10th house. And here we go. I mean, he's out there advertising all over the internet, dropping off cards, shaking hands, talking. They have that ability. And I mean, they got the gift of gab. And, a lot of times when I talk to my Gemini girlfriends, and I think it's because that sign rules from 14 to 21. Okay, so Aries is the first house, 0 to 7, Taurus, second house, 7 to 14. Now we have Gemini, the adolescent girl or boy, okay, 7 to 14 or 14 to 21. All right, where they're getting in a little trouble, right? So the Gemini is always getting in that little trouble. Gemini women, they like to flirt. They like to have, it's more fun in the beginning stages of the knowing, getting to know you. Once they get to know you, and if kind of the doldrums happen, like in a marriage, where maybe you're with someone that's very routine, doing the same thing every day, not a lot of emotion, not a lot of excitement, it's going to drive a Gemini crazy. All right. They have to be in the know, on the go. Now, they might be okay with that if their spouse allows them to go and they have this kind of thing to come home to, but they have a lot of freedom. But if that spouse starts to repress them or partner, that's not going to work out at all. So, men, I was talking a little earlier about this Peter Pan syndrome. Gemini men, they start a lot of projects. They overthink everything, so they take a lot of time to do things. They're very skilled with their hands, so they can make great craft, carpenters and construction men and the plumber, all of those things. But every Gemini, for some reason, I always get, like, because I'm here on my ranch, when I need help with projects and stuff, I always get a Gemini man, okay, to come work for me. And I'm a Virgo, you guys know. So Virgos, and we'll talk about that more, but Virgos are a lot more methodical. We want to find the easiest and most efficient way to get from point A to point B. Now, Gemini or Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, but it's a little different way that Mercury goes through Virgo. In Gemini, it can be very scattered, And so all the options are flying through their head. And often they want to take the easiest route because they want to be really smart and say, look what I did. I had this whole invention and made this work. But they can spend a lot of time going all the way around the mountain, like taking so much longer than it needed to take. Or maybe it didn't end up being the best way, but now it's like, but in their mind, because they put a lot of thought into it, that's really important to them. So if you have a Gemini partner, they may be scattered. They may be starting a lot of projects. They may not be finishing things. They may, go through these stages where, like I said, there's a lot of anxiety here with Mercury. So, when there's anxiety, there's fears, there's overthinking. Um, and that can really create emotional up and down. Gemini really doesn't like to be emotionally up and down because they are an air sign. They're up in their head. But again, Mercury's up and down throughout the year. They have to learn to go down, and they have to learn to be okay when things are quiet. They have to learn to be okay in the cocoon before they come out and spread their wings, that there's different times. They have to learn to be okay in their own head and not always have to have it come out. They're going to be talking to themselves all the time. Geminis talk to themselves all the time inside. But a lot of times, if they're just talking and not really thoughtfully thinking about their energy, they can get very worn out. Okay, they can go through depression, migraine headaches. Gemini on the medical side rules the lungs, the shoulders, the arms, the wrists, the hands. Okay, Geminis often have very beautiful hands. They're skilled writers. They can be musicians. Look at Stevie Nicks. Okay, beautiful Gemini there. She's a perfect example of kind of this freestyle little gypsy, gypsy edge to her. So, we're looking at this almost teenager. And I don't know if I mentioned it. I know I'm kind of going off the cuff, but this is how I really want to be able to teach and allow the things I feel important to discuss come to me as they do. Sometimes they're a little off, but hang with me. I usually come back around the mountain. Whenever I talk to my Gemini friends, I always feel like I'm back in high school or back in junior high with my girlfriends. And, that's always a little bit of fun to kind of, oh, yeah, really? Oh my God, I can't believe it. They got divorced? What? Like you're talking to your high school friend. And, it's in innocence. So, I mean, as everything can be not. And that is where, the negative side of this would come from. If a Gemini is repressed, is caged in, is shut down, the communication is shut down with others. If they get in their head too much, they can create characters and dramas and switch back between this committee up here. The twins for a man is kind of, I've heard termed like a committee. They have to go through all the people, to then make a decision. For women in the medical field, you do have to be a little bit careful of paying attention to what would be diagnosed as bipolar or even different personalities, multiple personalities. But I think if we can all learn to continue to embrace who we actually are and learn to operate those different characters, learn to embrace those two twins instead of feeling like something's wrong with us all the time and get rid of that shame, I wonder if people that have been, stamped that something's wrong with them could suddenly find some freedom. Learn to be in balance, learn to understand ourselves. That yes, Mercury is going to be retrograde for 3 weeks. This is a hard time for me. Be able to communicate that and not feel like what's wrong with me. So, but Geminis, they need to be out there. They are our voice. They keep the energy going. They revolve around the sun. And so do we. All right, you guys. Stay tuned for Cancer.